Welcome to Chrono Tales, a place where time, myths, and human nature collide. Here we dive into the forgotten corners of history, the minds of killers, the secrets behind strange events, and the stories too dark to be told anywhere else. Every tale you hear is drawn from the past, from the shadows, and from the people who lived it. So turn down the lights and listen closely. It all began when a group of mutineers, fed up with British justice, fled the famous ship Bounty and sought refuge on a remote island they hoped would be their sanctuary. But Pitcairn Island, as peaceful as it looked, would soon witness a chain of events filled with tragedy, violence, and the darkest sides of human nature. Centuries earlier, long before the mutineers arrived, the island had already seen the rise and fall of another civilization. In the 11th century, Polynesians settled here, bringing animals, tools, and building a small but thriving community. The island was rich in volcanic glass and fine stones, valuable materials they used for trade with the people of Mangareva, some 500 kilometers away. For nearly 4 centuries, life was good. They farmed, raised animals, and lived in balance with nature. But when the island's minerals began to run out, their trade collapsed. Without anything left to barter, tension grew, and soon, civil war broke out among the islanders. Once blood was spilled, their fate was sealed. Cut off from the world, trapped on a tiny island with no escape, the Polynesians slowly died out. Pitcairn fell silent for centuries. Then, in 1787, the British ship HMS Bounty set sail across the Pacific. Its mission, to collect breadfruit trees, a cheap, nutritious plant that Britain hoped could feed its colonies in the Caribbean. The crew sailed for months, crossing endless waves until they reached Tahiti, a tropical paradise overflowing with fruit, warmth, and women. For sailors who had spent months at sea, it was heaven on earth. They stayed for more than 6 months. When the day finally came to leave, many didn't want to go. The taste of paradise was too strong to forget, but orders were orders. Reluctantly, they set sail again, until one man, Lieutenant Fletcher Christian, could take no more. He and a group of sailors mutinied against their captain, William Bligh. Bligh and 18 loyal men were forced into a small open boat and cast adrift in the endless ocean. Miraculously, Bligh and his crew survived, rowing over 6,500 kilometers to safety, and swearing revenge. Meanwhile, Fletcher Christian and his men returned to Tahiti. But knowing Bligh would come for them, Christian gathered a small group, a mix of mutineers, Tahitian women, and a few men, and set off once more, in search of a hidden home far beyond reach. Their journey ended at the long-forgotten Pitcairn Island, a lush paradise with fertile soil, fresh water, and shelter from storms. It seemed perfect. But in 1790, things took a dark turn. The new settlers included 9 British sailors, 12 Tahitian women, and 6 Tahitian men, 27 people in total. But this paradise was built on inequality. Each sailor claimed a woman as his partner, while the 6 Tahitian men had to share just 3 women among them. Resentment grew quickly. Then one of the sailors, McCoy, discovered how to distill alcohol from local plants. Soon, drunkenness and violence spread across the island. Fletcher Christian withdrew from leadership, and McCoy took control, not as a ruler, but as a drunk tyrant. One day, in a fit of rage, McCoy punished his partner Tevarua for not catching enough fish, by cutting off her ear. Devastated and humiliated, she threw herself from a cliff. With her death, McCoy turned his eyes toward the few remaining women. Women who were already shared among the Tahitian men. That was the breaking point. The Tahitian men, furious and desperate, stole weapons from the sailors and rebelled. Within hours, most of the Europeans were dead. Only 4 survived: Adams, Young, Quintal, and McCoy. But peace did not last. The surviving Tahitian men tried to seize control of the women for themselves. But this time, the women fought back. They waited until the men were asleep, and killed them in revenge. Now only 4 sailors and 11 Tahitian women remained. McCoy drowned himself in alcohol and eventually took his own life. Quintal became increasingly violent, threatening women and children, until Adams and Young, the last two calm men, executed him to restore peace. Then, as if cursed, Young fell ill and died, leaving only one man alive, John Adams, the sole survivor of a paradise turned hell. Alone, haunted by what had happened, Adams reinvented himself. He taught Christianity, banned alcohol, and slowly turned the island into a deeply religious community. He read from the Bible every evening, prayed with the women and children, and preached forgiveness, even for sins that could never be forgiven. Over time, Adams fathered many children with the surviving women, and his descendants became the population of the island. For decades, Pitcairn thrived under his strange leadership. By the time British ships rediscovered the island in 1808, they found a polite, devout Christian society, led by a charismatic elder, John Adams himself. The British were amazed. Here, in the middle of the vast Pacific Ocean, was a seemingly peaceful Christian colony, built on the ashes of mutiny, violence, and death. What they didn't know was the nightmare it had taken to get there. Years passed. Adams died in 1829, leaving behind a new generation who worshipped him as a prophet and founder. But leadership didn't come easily after him. Some explorers tried to rule, others claimed to represent the British crown. One man, Joshua Hill, even arrived declaring that he had been appointed by the Queen herself. For a time, the people believed him, until he was exposed as a fraud and exiled. Still, Pitcairn's strange allure continued. Its tiny community, far from the rest of the world, fascinated missionaries and travelers alike. By the late 1800s, a missionary named John Tay arrived, bringing with him a new form of faith, the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Tay's charisma and conviction persuaded the islanders to convert. He preached about purity, obedience, and devotion. One of his first orders was that all the pigs on the island be killed, animals he saw as unclean. Despite hesitation, the islanders obeyed. From then on, Pitcairn became a devout Adventist community, their new faith officially recognized by Queen Victoria herself. For a while, things seemed stable. The population grew to around 150 people. Britain helped modernize the island, building clinics, postal offices, and even issuing their own stamps and postcards. Pitcairn was no longer just a forgotten rock in the ocean. It had become a small but proud British territory. Yet beneath the surface, the darkness never truly left. Generations passed, but isolation took its toll. With such a small population, nearly everyone related to one another, social tension and secrecy grew. And then, in 2004, Pitcairn faced the darkest scandal in its modern history. 7 men, including the mayor and even the local judge, were charged with over 50 crimes involving child abuse and assault. A prison was built on the island itself. 6 of the men, including the mayor, were convicted and jailed. The judge was acquitted. After their release, the judge's brother, Mike Warren, became mayor, only to be later arrested for possessing child pornography in 2010. It seemed the island's curse had never been lifted. But in 2019, a new chapter began. Pitcairn elected its first female mayor, Charlene Warren Pugh, who served without scandal until 2022. Today, the island is led by Simon Young, and its population hovers around just 50 people. Almost every resident alive today can trace their ancestry back to John Adams, the man who once saw himself as a prophet, and whose descendants still live on this isolated rock in the Pacific. It's a story that begins with escape and discovery, but ends as a haunting reminder of how even paradise can hide the darkest sides of human nature. This is Chrono Tales, where every story hides a truth, and every truth has a shadow. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay curious.